Hey, what's up, everybody? I am Craig Pera from The Mindful Habit, and you're listening to Sex Addictions and Porn Afflictions, a podcast designed to help you create healthy sexuality and live a great life. And it has to be those two things. There's not one without the other, just to put it out there. And I have a very, very special treat for everybody today. Look, Stephen is smiling. He's like, wait, I'm the special treat. I have with me today Stephen Offut, who is, listen, one of the blessings of this journey for me has been to connect with so many special people from all over the world, different religions. I don't think I knew an LDS. I didn't have any LDS brothers, Stephen, back then. But now I have you. Welcome to the program, my friend.
Thank you, Craig.
Well, I'm really glad you're here because we're going to be talking about some really interesting things. And spirituality, Stephen, and let's just jump right in, is such a complicated aspect of this journey. Why don't you share some of the challenges that you've had in regards to your spirituality, what it means to you, and how it was impacted by your use of porn back in the day?
Yeah, I'd be honored to. It's an honor to be here. So I think for me, a big thing that on the spiritual side, I have these expectations that I'm expected to keep or that I should keep, especially being a member of the LDS faith. And so using pornography, it goes against those expectations, the things that I'm taught from when I'm a little kid, 4 years old, to do. And so it was hard for me to really connect and see that I can, just because I have an addiction or a problem doesn't make me any less of a person it doesn't decrease my ability to reach my potential.
Well, and one of the challenges, Steve, and by the way, guys, I did a crappy introduction, so let me just tell you who we're talking to, okay? Stephen Offut is a life coach. He is certified in the Mindful Habit system. He, like all of us, had his struggle and used it as an opportunity to really transform into the best version of himself. And he's doing some really, really, really exciting things and helping lots of people. So I'm honored to have you on the program. Let's jump right back in. But I don't think I could go further without like telling people who the heck I was talking to. So.
Yeah, thank you. So
anyway, and there's so the shame around the violation of the shame around the sin.
Yeah,
makes it more likely the sin will be repeated. So tell me about that punishment cycle, because you talked about, hey, listen, I'm okay, and I made a mistake. No one's dying. Getting that perspective without it being this. I mean, what it's like for some people, but it's like that because of the role that shame and sin play. And so what was that cycle like when you're in it? It just makes things worse, doesn't it?
Yeah, shame is huge. Shame is really huge. I remember sometimes after using, I would just feel so horrible, and I would really beat myself up because I wasn't living up to these expectations I had created or that were in my mind. And the shame is crippling, and it just produced a negative effect, a negative cycle in my life where I would use and I would feel shame, and then that shame would lead me to use again. And it wasn't until I realized that I'm just like anybody else that has an addiction. My beliefs don't make me any different of a person. They can add and they can help me along the way. But the cure for my addiction and overcoming it is the same as anyone else. besides the fact that I believe in God and He can help me, that everything else besides that is the same. So once I realized that and realized that, okay, I don't need to be
Well,
perfect.
and why was that realization important, though? Sorry for interrupting, because I don't want to take for granted that realization you just described, which sounds so obvious when you say it. It's like you just said 2 + 2 is 4, but it wasn't. It was a realization that you had. Share with us the significance of that realization. Like what realization from what? Tell me more about that.
Yeah, so before I would see myself as a person that believes in God and I need to keep these commandments, but I have an addiction and an affliction, and so I'm not the person that is supposed to be keeping the commandments. I'm not up here, I'm down here. But then I changed it and I realized, hey, look, everybody has problems. Everybody has struggles and things that they go through, addictions, and whether you're a member of the church or believe in God or not, it doesn't matter. You still have chances for addiction, and people in addiction there still need help to get out and to recover. And so that realization helped me to see that, okay, I need spirituality in my recovery, but I also need tools. I need to learn physical things that I can do right now when I'm tempted or want to use, that I can use in the moment, because the spiritual was not enough physical stimulation to help me retrain my brain
Yeah.
at the moment.
Well, it's, I'm glad we're talking about this, because for my spiritual brothers who are listening, there's nothing in conflict with my system, anyone else's system. God made science. Like, if you believe in God and He made everything, then He made science. So like the fact that I have to even explain that sometimes is so frustrating, because there are so many people saying, listen, I just crack open that Bible and I'm going to pray. And then I ask, well, what has been the results of that? And the results are maybe terrible if they're calling me, or it hasn't been good, but something is getting in the way of their ability to get help. And I think you've described it very, very well.
Yeah, and so once I learned that it's just like going to a doctor for a broken leg, you can try to wrap it up and fix it yourself at home, but you don't have the tools and the necessary things to really get your leg in the proper place and fix it. And overcoming my addiction with learning physical tools, filling my toolbox up with things like trigger response plan, first thought wrong, or don't look more than 3 seconds, really helped me, because then I was able to create space. Then the spiritual things helped, and it would really make a difference. But I needed that space. I needed to learn what is happening in my brain first, learn the physical effects of watching porn, learn all those things, the science behind it, and it made it so much easier then to use what I already believe, that God can help me, and apply that.
Well, and look forward, right?
Yeah.
That is one of the important shifts, is look towards what it is we want to do.
Yeah.
What does healthy sexuality look like? Very difficult for a single spiritual LDS brother. You are held to a higher standard, man. I'm sorry. If I made the rules, you guys could masturbate, but I don't. I'm sorry. Yeah. And it's such a challenge, because I tell people, Steve, who call me and they say, listen, I want to get rid of my porn. I want to get rid of my masturbation. I say, great, but it's very hard. You've got to go guru. Do not expect results in your life unless you are willing to take it to that next level. But one of the challenges that I see all the time is getting men who do have an ultimate goal in mind of abstinence from pornography and abstinence from masturbation, is separating the porn from the masturbation. And they're both sins. I can't do that. let's just spend some time talking about that, because essentially I'm asking people to pick a lesser sin. I get having more theology debates around this one than anything else that I've had. But let's talk about your reluctance to embrace that advice when I first gave it to you, and then your success when you did separate the two. Let's talk about old Steve, new Steve.
Yeah, that's huge, Craig. I remember when you first told me about healthy masturbation, I was like, no, that can't be right. I don't think it'll work. I don't think it's real. And it went in conflict with, okay, the church tells me I need to not produce any sexual desires inside myself until I'm married with my spouse. And I believe that, but I couldn't do it at the time. So what I did is I took your advice and it worked. So I separated pornography addiction from masturbation addiction. And I worked on getting rid of pornography. Getting rid of pornography significantly lessened the amount of masturbation in my life. And then what I had to decide to do for myself is like, okay, let me just experiment with healthy masturbation and see if it really helps me, see if it works. And so I did. And when I would feel really strongly that I needed to use, and I did all the other physical TRP and those things, called people, and it still was there, then I would go ahead and do a healthy masturbation of some sort. And then it was good. I didn't use pornography. And for me, that was a big thing to be able to accept. Okay, I really don't want to use pornography. I'd rather masturbate than use porn. And once I was able to do that, it really helps me to progress in my progress. Pornography like really went away from my life, and masturbation hardly ever do I masturbate at all.
And that is so significant. So, brothers, for those of you who are listening, who are spiritual, who believe in God and adhere to a faith where masturbation is a no-no. Now, listen, I tell you to be kind to yourselves, because that is in conflict with the, it doesn't make it bad, right? Conflict isn't a bad thing. I'm not suggesting that, but for those of you who wish to attain that goal, I need you to know that the American Medical Association, the American Pediatric Association, the American Psychiatric Association, I think, and most of the PhD level groups, associations of people who study sex say masturbation is healthy. Now, you're listening to me, so you know that it's not always healthy. They're too absolute in that term. It's not healthy, but it can be healthier. And so recognizing that conflict, what Stephen has done is by separating the porn from the masturbation, he first got rid of the porn, that visual stimuli, that the corrupting influence of that on his, like, staining his brain from his perspective. And then when he did that, the frequency of the masturbation dropped to a place where it's almost nil. And I say almost nil because there's been the occasional stumble. And I want to talk about those stumbles because we talk about this all the time. And we've talked about this. Like, hey, guys, I want you to envision a world where a stumble doesn't lead you to the van down by the river. Like, it turns into a bender. It gets worse. You're now like back to square one, which is complete bullshit. Let's talk about your relationship with failure and how that changed, and how that actually helped you.
Yeah, so as I was able to, it kind of goes back to shame and guilt. I learned that shame isn't healthy. Guilt is okay because it helps me to progress and realize, okay, hey, I don't want to do that anymore. But what I learned, and it took me a long time to really learn, that failure is an opportunity for me to grow. How? Because I can rewind and pick apart the failure happened, why I used, what were my emotions, my feelings, what I could have done different. And then go ahead and apply those principles I learned from failure to the future. So it's kind of like weeding out the garden in a way. You got to get out the big ones first, and then you can get the small ones out and then fix it so it doesn't get so many weeds anymore. And so with learning how to control slip-ups and make them so that they aren't this huge thing, I'm able to weed out the little weeds in my life so that pornography is no longer in my life. And it's awesome. It took a lot of time, and I'm still working on it a little bit here and there. But the thing is that I learned that, okay, before my slip up, look how much stuff I learned from going through Craig's program or from researching on my own. I learned so much stuff. I've seen my potential. I know where I want to go now. I have a strategic and tactical plan. So I'm not back at square one if I slip up.
But wait a minute. What I'm here, aren't you supposed to punish yourself? Aren't you supposed to self-flagellate? For those of you watching on the video, I'm pretending to whip myself. Like there's such a punishment component to this. Was that what it was like for you?
Yeah, when I first started recovery, it was bad. I would punish myself all the time. But I realized it didn't get me anywhere. It just made it worse. So what I started to do is after a slip up, I would just step back and talk to myself like, Steve, okay, what went wrong? What happened here? And I would try to also see my situation objectively instead of just from my viewpoint. I would pretend as if someone was there and they were watching me and be like, okay, this and this didn't go right, but let's move forward and learn from it. And you don't need to beat yourself up. Feel guilty or sorry, but don't feel shame. So that way you can move forward.
You know, it's a great answer to the question, what would Jesus do?
Yeah.
Like, can you imagine like him screaming at you? Like him, like throwing sand, kicking sand, get his sandals. He's kicking sand on you, throwing stones. Like, it's preposterous to even envision that. It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
And here you've got a spirituality rooted in forgiveness. And yet some of you brothers out there listening can't forgive yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And that's preventing you from loving yourself. And so you're repeating the same patterns over and over and over again, and the shame is driving you literally insane. But yet they believe, Stephen, they need the shame, and we know they don't. Let's talk about that distinction that you drew between shame and guilt. And I really think that this is going to help some people because, you talk to guys just like me. They're struggling. They can't stop. The shame is tell me about that.
Yeah, so I learned that shame is really thinking a lot less of myself, of my worth, of who I am, and just taking all the negative and saying that, oh, that's all I'll ever be is an addict. I'm only an addict, and it didn't do me any good. So I learned that instead of feeling shame, I need to feel guilt. So imagine shame is getting caught. Like if you're on your computer watching porn or whatever, and you get caught by your parents, you're going to feel shame because, oh, great, parents caught me. Guilt, though, is in the sense like you use porn and then you know it's wrong and you feel bad about your decision because it doesn't make you feel good and you just feel horrible inside. Then you talk to your parents about it and they help you. So guilt produces opportunities to grow because you go through the right channels to, instead of beating yourself up and whipping yourself. And it's really just, what would Jesus do? Jesus would look at you and be like, okay, we can fix this. And same thing, that you gotta do it in your life. You gotta be like, okay, this is not who I want to be. It's not right. I know I'm better than this. So what can we do to fix it? You know, because I have a lot of potential, and I don't want to use it anymore.
That is so important, because this drive that people have to crap all over themselves. If it was making it better, if it was working, I'd say, hey, keep going, shame away. But it's not.
Mm-mm.
It's making it worse. It's making it worse. What is the number one thing that you want to say to young men out there who are single, who are spiritual, who are God-fearing brothers? What do you want to say to those guys who are struggling right now, Stephen?
That they need to never give up and treat their addiction like people would who are not religious, and then apply your religious beliefs to the physical things you learn. Because when you have both of them, then it will really make a huge difference, and you'll be able to progress. And it works.
And it works. And it works. That is so, that's awesome, brother. Now, listen, how can people get in touch with you, Stephen? Because I know you're now working with guys, or your 10-week program, 2 sessions per week is an introductory rate of $300. Now, that's only going to be available for the next 5 people, which is awesome. So, guys, listen, if you're struggling, and you want additional support, you want additional accountability, consider contacting Stephen. No hard sell here, guys, but this is a gifted man who's been helping people, and the feedback that I've been getting has been great. Stephen, how do people contact you?
So I have a personal phone you can call me at 304-707-5912, and you can email me. My company that I'm finishing up the website for here is called The Real Within. So TheRealWithin @gmail.com.
Oh, I like that. The Real Within. That's cool. That's cool. That's awesome. So a couple of key points. Stephen, I want to thank you so much for coming and sharing your experiences with us. And it's so important for other people to see, like, oh my God, look, 2 normal guys talking about a problem that so many people are struggling with. And I can't begin. Well, you know the impact of seeing someone else talking about your problem. And I know that you're going to continue to help people. So I wanted to thank you so much for being so brave and coming out here.
You're welcome. Thanks, Greg. It's an honor.
Truly a privilege, man. Guys, I've met people from all over the world, every walk of life. This is a neat little thing. It sounds like the beginning of a joke, but I've worked with an imam, a rabbi, and a priest, right? So, like, it sounds like the beginning of a joke, doesn't it? Like, I don't know. But it's given me such an incredible opportunity to meet and connect with people all over the world. And so, guys, if you're struggling, please consider learning practicing some of the tools that you heard here today. First, if your objective is not to watch porn and not to masturbate, then I believe that you will not be successful unless you separate the porn from the masturbation. You have to go guru, or you're going to live a miserable life. I mean, there's a reason why these organizations say, do it. Because not doing it makes people really miserable. And if you don't change yourself, if you don't elevate, then goodness gracious, you're going to be suffering. And changing your relationship with failure, absolutely critical. Remember, from this moment on, for everyone who is listening right now, your failure is a gift. Your failure is an incredible gift to learn, to grow. And here's the thing about it. It is an inexorable component of success. There is no one without the other. There's no success without failure. So thank you guys for listening. I look forward to doing this again next week. So honored and privileged. Call Stephen at 304-707-5912 if you want some more help. Thank you so much for being here. Love you all, guys. Memento mori. Remember, you are going to die. Life is too short to suck. So embrace your power of choice. See you guys. Bye, ladies. Take it easy, everybody.